I found my passport in the kitchen trash, cut into perfect little squares like confetti for the world's worst celebration. My name is Caleb Gannon, and I'm 33 years old with a job in logistics consulting that pays well enough to keep my wife Noelle in designer coffee and organic flowers for her shop. I'm tall, wiry, and according to most people who know me, too sarcastic for my own good. Right now, standing in my kitchen at midnight, holding pieces of my own identification, I'm thinking they might be right. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Looking for something? Noelle's voice drifted from the doorway. She stood there in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, looking like she'd just won the lottery instead of committing what I was pretty sure was a federal crime. My passport, I said, letting the pieces fall through my fingers. You know, that little blue book that lets me travel to my brother's wedding in Barbados tomorrow. Oh, that. She examined her manicured nails with the kind of casual indifference that made my teeth itch. I threw it away. Well, after I cut it up, took forever with those little scissors from my craft drawer. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were closing in. Our Victorian house had always been too big for two people, but now it felt suffocating. The morning light filtering through the lace curtains Noelle insisted on buying made everything look pale and washed out. You destroyed my passport, I said slowly, making sure I understood correctly. The night before an international flight. She moved to the coffee maker, starting her morning routine like she hadn't just sabotaged my travel plans. You care more about that stupid trip than you do about me, always running off somewhere, leaving me here alone. It's my brother's wedding, Noelle. My only brother. So, I didn't get invited. Because you told Danny's fiancée that her dress made her look fat, at their engagement party, in front of her entire family. Noelle waved a dismissive hand. Sarah's too sensitive. Besides, I was trying to help. That dress was hideous. I stared at her, really looked at her for maybe the first time in months. Noelle Voss had been beautiful when we met 3 years ago. Still was, technically. Blonde hair that she spent $200 maintaining every month. Green eyes that could make you forget your own name when she wanted something. But standing there in our kitchen, destroying my property and justifying it like she was doing me a favor, she looked different, smaller, meaner. This is insane, I said. You can't just destroy someone's passport because you're having a tantrum. Watch me. She turned to face me fully, and there was something in her expression I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating. Now you'll stay here where you belong, and we can work on our marriage like adults. My phone buzzed. A text from Sierra, one of Noelle's shop assistants and closest confidants. OMG, did you really shred his passport? Viv wants to know if she should come over with wine to celebrate. I held up my phone. You told your little fan club about this? Noelle's cheeks flushed pink, but she lifted her chin defiantly. My friends support me. Unlike yours, who probably think I'm some kind of monster. Well, you did just commit a federal crime to keep me from attending my brother's wedding, so don't be so dramatic, Caleb. It's just a piece of paper. That's when something inside me snapped. Not violently, not explosively. More like a rubber band that had been stretched too far for too long, finally giving up. I looked around our kitchen, at the expensive espresso machine she'd insisted we needed, at the fresh flowers she brought home from her shop every day and let die on the counter, at the stack of credit card bills she pretended didn't exist. Understood, I said quietly. Noelle blinked, clearly expecting more of a fight. What? I said I understand. You've made your position clear. I walked past her toward the stairs, my mind already working through the logistics. Emergency passport services opened at 6 a.m. in Boston. If I left now, I could be there when they opened, get expedited service, and still make my afternoon flight. Where are you going? Noelle called after me. To pack, I said without turning around. Different trip, same destination. I heard her footsteps behind me as I climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Our bedroom felt like a crime scene now, with evidence of her betrayal scattered around like she'd been planning this for weeks. My suitcase was exactly where I'd left it, half packed with tropical shirts and swimwear. "Caleb, you can't just leave. We need to talk about this." "We just did." I grabbed my emergency documents folder from the desk drawer. Birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, everything I'd need for an emergency passport. Thank God for my obsessive organization habits. "This is ridiculous. You're being childish." I stopped packing and looked at her. Really looked at her. "Noelle, you destroyed my passport to prevent me from attending my brother's wedding. You involved your friends in humiliating me. You committed a federal crime, and you're standing there acting like I'm the unreasonable one." "It's not a federal crime. Don't be so dramatic." "Actually, it is. Destruction of a passport is punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. I looked it up while you were making coffee." The color drained from her face. "You're lying. Google it." I finished packing in silence while she stood in the doorway, probably trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I wasn't. 3 years of marriage to Noelle had taught me to always have backup plans and know my legal rights. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Nate, my oldest friend who ran security at the Manifest, the local bar where everyone in town eventually ended up. "Heard through the grapevine that your wife's lost her mind. Need backup?" I texted back, "Meet me at your place in 10 minutes. Bring coffee." "Caleb, please. Let's just talk about this like adults." I zipped up my suitcase and faced her. "Adults don't destroy other people's property when they don't get their way. Adults don't sabotage their spouse's family relationships. And adults sure as hell don't brag about it to their friends like it's some kind of victory." "I wasn't bragging." Sierra's text suggests otherwise. I walked past her again, this time heading for the front door. She followed, her silk pajamas making whisking sounds against her legs. "If you leave now, don't bother coming back," she said, her voice rising to that pitch that meant she was gearing up for a full meltdown. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. "Is that a threat or a promise?" "It's a warning. I won't be here when you get back." "Good. That'll make the conversation with my lawyer much easier." I opened the door and stepped into the cool pre-dawn air. Behind me, I heard Noelle gasp, but I didn't turn around. I was done turning around for Noelle. Nate lived 15 minutes away in a converted warehouse that smelled like motor oil and bad decisions. He was waiting on his front steps with 2 cups of gas station coffee and the kind of grin that meant trouble. "So," he said, handing me a cup, "your wife finally went full psycho, huh?" "She destroyed my passport." "Jesus, that's like illegal, right?" "Very." Nate nodded thoughtfully. He was built like the Marine he used to be, all shoulders and attitude, with graying hair that he kept military short and scars that he never talked about. We'd been friends since high school, and he'd never liked Noelle. Said she reminded him of the kind of officer who got people eliminated to make themselves look good. "So what's the play?" he asked. "Emergency passport in Boston, make my flight, attend my brother's wedding, and figure out the rest from there. And Noelle?" Noelle made her choice. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, drinking terrible coffee and watching the sun come up over our small coastal town. From Nate's place, you could see the harbor and the fishing boats heading out for the day. Normal people living normal lives, not dealing with passport-destroying spouses and federal crimes before breakfast. "You know she's going to make this as difficult as possible," Nate said eventually. "I'm counting on it." That's a weird thing to count on. I smiled for the first time in hours. Noelle thinks she's smarter than everyone else. Always has. But she's sloppy when she's angry, and she just made herself very, very angry. "You sound like you have a plan." "I always have a plan." My phone rang. Noelle, probably expecting me to crawl back and beg forgiveness. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Popular guy, Nate observed. Desperate woman, I corrected. She's realizing that destroying my passport might not have been the brilliant move she thought it was. The fourth time she called, I answered. Caleb, thank God. Listen, I've been thinking. Save it, Noelle. I'm getting a new passport and going to Danny's wedding. When I get back, we'll discuss our marriage, or what's left of it. You can't just... I hung up. Cold, Nate said approvingly. Effective, I corrected. She's used to me backing down, apologizing, making peace. Not today. What changed? I thought about it while I finished my coffee. What had changed? The passport was just the latest in a long line of controlling, manipulative behaviors. The isolated incidents that, when you added them up, painted a picture of someone who saw other people as objects to be managed rather than human beings to be respected. I guess I finally got tired of being managed, I said. Nate nodded. About time. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Maddie. Heard from Danny that you might not make it. Everything okay? I called her back. Maddie was a lawyer in Boston, sharp as a blade and twice as cutting when she needed to be. If I was going to war with Noelle, I'd need all the help I could get. Caleb? What's going on? Noelle destroyed my passport to keep me from coming to the wedding. Silence. Then. She did what now? Cut it up with scissors, threw it in the trash, bragged about it to her friends. Jesus Christ, Caleb. That's destruction of federal property. She could go to prison. I know. I'm heading to Boston for an emergency passport. Can you meet me at the federal building? Of course, but Caleb, this is serious. Like divorce serious. I know that too. Another pause. Good. It's about time. I hung up and looked at Nate. Want to take a drive to Boston? Wouldn't miss it. The federal building in Boston looked like every other government building in America. Imposing, gray, and designed to make you feel small and insignificant. At 6 a.m, it was mostly empty except for security guards and the kind of people who had passport emergencies. People like me. Maddie was waiting by the metal detectors, looking professional in her navy suit, and carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. She hugged me tight when she saw me, the kind of hug that said she'd been worried. You look like hell, she said. I feel like hell. Good. Means you're finally waking up. We went through security and found the passport office. I had all my paperwork ready, birth certificate, driver's license, proof of travel, photos from the CVS we'd stopped at on the way. The clerk was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and the efficient manner of someone who'd seen every kind of travel disaster. Emergency passport for travel today? She asked, reviewing my documents. Wedding in Barbados. My flight leaves at 2. She nodded sympathetically. Family emergency? Something like that. While she processed my application, Maddie and I sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs and talked in low voices. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. The passport destruction, Noelle's justification, her friend's involvement, the threats about not being there when I got back. Maddie listened without interrupting, taking notes in her legal pad like she was preparing for court. She's given you grounds for divorce, she said when I finished. I figured. I mean really solid grounds. Destruction of property, emotional abuse, interference with family relationships. A judge would probably award you the house. That stopped me. The house? It's in both your names, right? But she committed crimes to prevent you from fulfilling family obligations. That shows a pattern of controlling behavior that courts don't like. I hadn't thought about the house. We'd bought it together 2 years ago, a Victorian fixer-upper that Noelle had insisted on because it looked good on Instagram. I'd done most of the actual fixing while she arranged flowers and complained about the noise. Mr. Gannon? The clerk called my name. Your passport is ready. The new passport felt strange in my hands. Same photo, same information, but somehow different, like a symbol of something ending and something else beginning. Thank you, I said. Have a good trip. And sir, next time, keep your passport somewhere safe. If she only knew. Nate drove me to Logan Airport while Maddie headed back to her office to research divorce procedures. The traffic was typical Boston nightmare, but we made good time. So what's the plan when you get back? Nate asked as we sat in departures traffic. Honestly, I have no idea. That's not like you. You always have a plan. My plan was to be married to someone who didn't destroy federal documents when she got upset. I need to make a new plan. Fair point. My phone had been buzzing constantly since we left the federal building. Texts from Noelle, voicemails, missed calls. I hadn't looked at any of them. Whatever she had to say could wait until I got back. You should probably check those, Nate said, nodding at my phone. Know what you're dealing with. He was right. I scrolled through the messages. Noelle, 7:15 a.m. Caleb, please come home so we can talk about this like adults. Noelle, 7:32 a.m. I'm sorry about the passport. I was upset. You know how I get when I'm upset. Noelle, 8:10 a.m. This is ridiculous. You're missing your brother's wedding over a piece of paper. Noelle, 8:45 a.m. Fine, be childish. See if I care. Noelle, 9:20 a.m. Sierra says you're probably cheating on me. Is that what this is about? Are you meeting someone in Barbados? And then, the kicker. Noelle, 10:15 a.m. I've changed the locks. Don't bother coming home unless you're ready to apologize and work on our marriage. I showed the phone to Nate. Well, he said, that escalated quickly. She changed the locks on my own house. Your house too, right? Both names on the deed? Yeah. Then changing the locks is illegal. That's called lockout, and it's a form of domestic abuse in Massachusetts. I stared at him. How do you know that? My ex-wife tried the same thing. Lawyer explained it to me real quick. So she's committed 2 crimes in 12 hours. Sounds about right for Noelle. I called Maddie. She did what? My sister's voice was sharp with anger. Change the locks. Says I can't come home unless I apologize. That's illegal. Like, call the police illegal. I figured. Caleb, I'm not kidding. She's escalating this in ways that could get her arrested. You need to document everything. I am. Good. Enjoy Danny's wedding. When you get back, we're going to have a serious conversation about your marriage. I hung up and looked out at the Boston skyline. Somewhere in this city, people were living normal lives with spouses who didn't commit federal crimes or change locks or involve their friends in humiliating their partners. It seemed like a foreign concept. You okay? Nate asked. I'm about to get on a plane to attend my brother's wedding while my wife systematically destroys our marriage back home. So no, not really. Look at it this way. At least you'll have a good story to tell. That's one way to look at it. We pulled up to the departure curb. Nate got out and grabbed my suitcase from the trunk. Listen, he said, I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. Noelle's been controlling you for years. Maybe this is what it took to wake you up. Maybe. Definitely. Go to your brother's wedding. Dance, drink, have fun. Deal with the crazy wife when you get back. Thanks, Nate, for everything. That's what friends are for. I watched him drive away, then turned toward the terminal. My phone buzzed one more time. Another text from Noelle. Last chance, Caleb. Come home now or don't come home at all. I deleted the message without responding and walked into the airport. The flight to Barbados was long and gave me plenty of time to think about Noelle, about our marriage, about the choices that had led me to this moment. When had things gone so wrong? When had the woman I married become someone who would destroy my property and lock me out of my own house? Maybe Nate was right. Maybe this had been building for years, and I'd just been too stubborn or too optimistic to see it. Danny met me at the airport in Bridgetown, grinning like an idiot and wearing a shirt covered in flamingos. Caleb! Man, I thought you weren't going to make it. Sarah was freaking out about the numbers for dinner. Wouldn't miss it, I said, hugging my brother. Everything okay? You look like you've been through hell. Long story. I'll tell you later. Fair enough. Come on, let's get you to the hotel. The bachelor party starts in 2 hours. The hotel was one of those all-inclusive resorts that looked like paradise and probably cost more per night than I made in a week. Danny had insisted on paying for my room, which was good because I had no idea what my credit card situation was going to look like when I got home. So, Danny said as we sat by the pool with beers that tasted like vacation, what's really going on? And don't say it's nothing. I know that look. I told him. Everything. The passport, the locks, the threats, the federal crimes. Danny listened with the kind of expression that suggested he was trying very hard not to say, I told you so. Jesus, Caleb, that's insane. Yeah. I never liked her, you know. I know. She always acted like she was doing you a favor by being married to you. I know that too. So what are you going to do? I looked out at the Caribbean Sea, blue and endless and completely indifferent to my marital problems. I'm going to enjoy my brother's wedding, I said, and then I'm going to go home and figure out how to get my life back. Good man. The bachelor party was exactly what you'd expect from a group of guys in their 30s on a tropical island. Too much drinking, terrible karaoke, and stories that would never be repeated in front of wives or girlfriends. For a few hours, I forgot about Noelle and passports and changed locks. I remembered what it felt like to just be myself, without constantly managing someone else's emotions or walking on eggshells to avoid the next crisis. It felt good. It felt like freedom. The wedding itself was perfect. Sarah looked beautiful, Danny looked happy, and the sunset ceremony on the beach was everything a wedding should be. I stood up as best man and gave a speech about love and commitment and partnership that felt like a eulogy for my own marriage. Afterward, during the reception, I called Maddie. How's paradise? She asked. Beautiful. How's Boston? Full of lawyers who want to help you divorce your crazy wife. That bad, huh? Caleb, I've been doing some research. What Noelle did, the passport, the locks, the threats, it's a pattern of behavior called coercive control. It's a form of domestic abuse. I sat down on a bench overlooking the ocean. The music from the reception drifted over the sand, mixing with the sound of waves. I never thought of it as abuse, I said. Most people don't. It's not physical violence, so it doesn't seem as serious. But controlling someone's movements, isolating them from family, destroying their property, that's abuse, Caleb. So what do I do? You come home, you document everything, and you file for divorce, and you do it before she escalates further. You think she'll escalate? I think she's already escalating. The question is how far she'll go. I hung up and sat in the darkness, listening to the ocean and thinking about the woman I'd married. Had she always been this way? Had I just been too blind to see it? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Viv, Noelle's friend. She's really upset and doing crazy things. You should come home and fix this before she does something stupid. I stared at the message. Even Noelle's friends were getting worried about her behavior. That was either a very good sign or a very bad one. I texted back, "What kind of crazy things?" "She's been drinking since you left and posting weird stuff on social media. Sierra and I are worried about her." "Where is she now?" "At your house. She won't let us in. Says she's waiting for you to come crawling back." Great. So my wife was drunk, alone, and spiraling in my locked house. This could only end well. I called Nate. "How's the wedding?" He answered. "Good. How's my wife?" "Crazy. She's been calling the bar looking for you, telling everyone who'll listen that you abandoned her for some Caribbean floozy." "Of course she has." "Gets better. She also filed a missing person report with the police." "What?" "Yeah, told them you disappeared without a trace and she's worried about your safety." "I'm at my brother's wedding, in Barbados, where she knew I was going." "I know that. You know that. The cops are figuring it out, but it's causing drama. This was getting out of hand fast. Nate, I need you to do me a favor. Name it. Can you drive by the house? Make sure she's okay? I don't want her to hurt herself or do something stupid. Already on it. Drove by this morning. She's alive and apparently redecorating. Redecorating? Saw her throwing stuff out the upstairs window. Looked like clothes. My clothes. She was throwing my clothes out the window. This is insane, I said. Yeah. Well, you married her. Thanks for the reminder. Sorry, man, but seriously, you need to get home. She's losing it, and when Noelle loses it, everybody suffers. I knew he was right, but I also knew that if I cut my trip short and went running home, I'd be right back where I started, managing Noelle's emotions, apologizing for her behavior, and pretending that destroying someone's passport was a normal response to marital conflict. I'll be home tomorrow night as planned, I said. If she burns the house down before then, call the fire department. Fair enough. I hung up and rejoined the reception. Danny was dancing with Sarah, both of them glowing with happiness and possibility. Around them, friends and family celebrated love and commitment and all the things that marriage was supposed to be about. I thought about Noelle, drunk and alone in our locked house, throwing my belongings out the window like some deranged Rapunzel. This was what my marriage had become: federal crimes and changed locks and missing person reports filed out of spite. It was time to end it. The flight home from Barbados felt like traveling from paradise to purgatory. I spent most of it staring out the window, trying to prepare myself for whatever fresh hell Noelle had created while I was gone. I needn't have worried about being unprepared. Nothing could have prepared me for what I found when I got home. Nate picked me up at Logan, and I could tell from his expression that things had gone from bad to worse. How bad? I asked as we pulled out of the airport. Scale of 1 to 10? About a 15. That's not encouraging. She's been busy while you were gone, real busy. He handed me his phone. On the screen was Noelle's Facebook page, and the most recent post made my stomach drop. My husband abandoned me to go party in the Caribbean with his mistress. 3 years of marriage meant nothing to him. I'm heartbroken and don't know what to do. Please keep me in your thoughts during this difficult time. Betrayed, heartbroken, abandoned. The post had 47 comments and 23 shares. I scrolled through the responses, watching our private business become public entertainment. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. What a pig. You deserve better. I always thought he seemed sketchy. Men are trash. You're better off without him. And then, from Sierra, we're here for you, babe. He never deserved you anyway. She's telling people I was cheating, I said. Gets worse. Keep scrolling. The next post was a photo of my clothes scattered across the front lawn with the caption, "Cleaning house," literally. Fresh start, by Felipe. And below that, ladies, what's the best way to get grass stains out of men's dress shirts? Asking for a friend. Jesus Christ. Oh, it gets better. Nate was right. The posts got progressively more unhinged as the days went on. Photos of her redecorating our bedroom. Vague threats about making sure he gets what he deserves. A rambling post about how some people think they can just walk away from their responsibilities, but they're about to learn otherwise. She's completely lost it, I said. Yep, and she's taken half the town with her. What do you mean? Well, not everyone believes her story, but enough people do that it's causing problems. Mrs. Kowalski from the flower shop next door has been giving me dirty looks all week, and someone keyed cheater into the side of your car. They what? Yeah. It's parked behind the bar, figured it was safer there than on the street. I put my head in my hands. This was spiraling out of control faster than I could process it. In 3 days, Noelle had managed to destroy my reputation, vandalize my property, and turn our private conflict into a public spectacle. There's more. Nate said. Of course there is. She's been calling your work, telling people you had a nervous breakdown and might not be coming back. She called my work? Multiple times. Your boss called me looking for you yesterday. I told him you were at your brother's wedding, but he seemed confused because Noelle told him you were in some kind of treatment facility. This was beyond anything I'd imagined. Noelle wasn't just destroying our marriage. She was trying to destroy my entire life. I need to call my boss, I said. Already handled. I gave him your sister's number, and Maddie straightened it out. But Caleb, this is serious. She's not just having a tantrum. She's actively trying to ruin you. We pulled up to the house, and I got my first look at the damage. The front lawn was littered with my belongings, clothes, books, tools, even my collection of vintage records. Everything was scattered and dirty, some of it clearly run over by cars or soaked by the sprinkler system. She threw all of this out the window? I asked. Most of it. Some she carried out and arranged artistically. She's got a real flair for drama. The house itself looked different. The curtains were drawn tight, and there was a handwritten sign taped to the front door. Property of Noelle Voss. Trespassers will be prosecuted. She can't legally keep me out of my own house, I said. No, but she can make it really unpleasant to go in. As if summoned by our conversation, the front door opened and Noelle appeared. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes she'd had on when I left, with dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't been sleeping. Well, well, she called out, her voice carrying across the yard. Look who decided to come crawling back. I got out of the car slowly, trying to project calm even though my heart was racing. Hello, Noelle. How was your whore? I was at Danny's wedding. Alone, as you well know. Sure you were. She laughed, but it sounded more like a bark. I suppose she was just a bridesmaid, right? Some Caribbean slut who couldn't wait to get her hands on a married man. I looked around at our neighbors' houses. Curtains were twitching, and I could see faces in windows. Whatever I said next would be repeated all over town by dinner time. Noelle, we need to talk. Privately. Oh, now you want to talk privately? After you humiliated me in front of the entire town by running off to your tropical hookup getaway? I went to my brother's wedding. You abandoned your wife to go party with sluts. Mrs. Kowalski from next door had come out onto her porch, clearly enjoying the show. Across the street, the Hendersons were standing in their driveway, not even pretending they weren't listening. Can we please go inside and discuss this like adults? I said. Adults? Noelle's voice rose to a shriek. Adults don't abandon their spouses. Adults don't run off to Caribbean orgies when their marriage is in trouble. There was no orgy, Noelle. It was a wedding. Prove it. She was completely irrational. There was no reasoning with her, no calming her down, no finding middle ground. She was performing for an audience, and she was enjoying every minute of it. I walked past her, toward the front door. Don't you dare go in there, she screamed. I changed the locks. This is my house now. It's our house, Noelle. Both our names are on the deed. Not for long. I tried my key. She was right. The locks had been changed. But I'd expected that. I pulled out my phone and called the police. 911, what's your emergency? This is Caleb Gannon at 47 Maple Street. I'm being illegally locked out of my own home by my wife. I need an officer to help me gain access to my own property. Noelle's face went white. You called the cops on me? You committed a crime, Noelle. Multiple crimes. What crimes? I haven't done anything. Destruction of federal property, illegal lockout, filing a false police report, harassment. Should I go on? The fight went out of her suddenly, like air leaking from a balloon. She sat down on the front steps and started crying, not the manipulative tears she usually deployed when she wanted sympathy, but genuine sobs of someone who just realized how far they'd fallen. I just wanted you to stay, she said between sobs. I just wanted you to choose me for once. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. But then I looked around at my belongings scattered across the lawn, thought about the lies she'd told, the reputation she'd tried to destroy, the life she'd tried to ruin. "This isn't how you make someone stay, Noelle," I said quietly. "This is how you make them leave." The police arrived 10 minutes later, 2 officers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else than mediating a domestic dispute on a Sunday evening. "Mr. Gannon, you called about being locked out of your home?" "Yes, officer. My wife changed the locks while I was out of town. Both our names are on the deed." They looked at Noelle, who was still crying on the steps. "Ma'am, is this your husband?" "Yes," she whispered. "And did you change the locks to prevent him from entering the home?" "He abandoned me. He went to the Caribbean with another woman." "Ma'am, that's not what I asked. Did you change the locks?" "Yes." The older officer sighed. "Ma'am, if both your names are on the deed, you can't legally prevent your spouse from entering the home. You'll need to provide him with a key or allow him to change the locks back." "But he left me?" "Ma'am, going out of town isn't abandonment. Do you have a key for your husband?" Noelle looked back and forth between the officers, probably hoping for sympathy. When she didn't find any, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a key. "Here," she said, throwing it at my feet. "Take your stupid key." I picked it up and unlocked the door. The house smelled like stale wine and desperation. Empty bottles were scattered around the living room, and the walls were covered with printouts of angry Facebook posts and text messages, like she'd been building a case against me in her own mind. "Jesus, Noelle, what is all this?" "Evidence," she said. "Evidence of what a terrible husband you are." I looked closer at the papers taped to the walls, screenshots of my social media posts, printed emails, even photos of me with other people that she'd apparently analyzed for signs of infidelity. It was like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream, except the conspiracy was my imaginary affair. "This is insane," I said. "You're insane!" she screamed. "You and your whore and your whole family!" The police officers exchanged glances. "Folks," the older one said, "this seems like a domestic issue that you need to work out between yourselves. But ma'am, I want to be clear. You cannot prevent your husband from entering his own home. And sir, you might want to consider staying somewhere else tonight while things cool down." After they left, I stood in my living room and tried to process what my life had become. 3 days ago, I'd been married to someone I thought I knew. Now I was standing in a house that looked like the headquarters of a stalker, surrounded by evidence of my wife's complete break from reality. "Noelle," I said carefully, "I think you need help. I need my husband to stop cheating on me." "I'm not cheating on you. I've never cheated on you." "Then why did you leave me?" "I went to my brother's wedding. You knew that. You destroyed my passport to try to stop me." "You could have stayed. You could have chosen me." "You committed a federal crime, Noelle. You can't destroy someone's passport and then act like you're the victim." She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or regret. "I'm sorry about the passport," she said quietly. "I was just so scared you were leaving me." "So you made sure I'd want to leave you?" I wasn't thinking clearly. "No, you weren't, and you're not thinking clearly now." I looked around at the chaos she'd created. "Noelle, this has to stop. The Facebook posts, the lies about my work, throwing my stuff on the lawn, it has to stop." What if I can't stop? The question hung in the air between us. What if she couldn't stop? What if this wasn't just a tantrum or a breakdown, but something deeper and more permanent? "Then we need to end this," I said, "before it gets worse." "You want a divorce?" "I want my life back." She nodded slowly, like she was finally understanding something that had been just out of reach. "I'll clean up the posts," she said, "and I'll call your work tomorrow and apologize." "That's a start. But I'm not giving you a divorce. We can work this out, Caleb. We just need to try harder." I looked at her sitting there in our destroyed living room, surrounded by the evidence of her obsession, and I realized that she still didn't understand what she'd done. She thought this was a rough patch, a bump in the road, something that could be fixed with apologies and promises to do better. She didn't understand that she'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed. "We'll see," I said. But I already knew. This marriage was over. The only question was how much more damage Noelle would do before she accepted it. I spent that night at Nate's place, sleeping on his couch and trying to figure out my next move. Noelle had texted me 17 times between midnight and 6 a.m., alternating between apologies and accusations, promises to change and threats to make me pay for humiliating her. By morning, I'd made my decision. "I'm filing for divorce," I told Nate over coffee. "About time. But first, I need to protect myself. She's escalating, and I don't think she's done." "What do you mean?" I showed him the overnight texts. The progression was disturbing, starting with, "I'm sorry, please come home," and ending with, "You'll regret making me look like a fool in front of the whole town." "Yeah, that's not good," Nate said. "Sounds like she's building up to something." "That's what I'm afraid of." I called Maddie. "How bad was it?" she asked without preamble. "Bad. She turned our living room into a shrine to my imaginary infidelity, and she's not backing down." "Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to document everything. Photos, screenshots, recordings if possible. You're going to stay away from the house unless absolutely necessary, and you're going to let me handle the legal side." "What about work?" She's been calling them. "I'll draft a letter explaining the situation. Your boss will understand." "And if she escalates further?" "Then we'll deal with that too. But Caleb, you need to be prepared for this to get worse before it gets better. Controlling people don't give up control easily." She was right, of course. I'd seen Noelle's pattern of behavior for years. When she felt threatened or out of control, she doubled down. She got meaner, more manipulative, more willing to hurt people to get what she wanted. I just hadn't realized I could be one of those people. I drove to work, taking back roads to avoid going past the house. My car looked terrible. The word cheater was scratched deep into the paint on both sides, and someone had also broken the passenger side mirror. I'd deal with that later. At the office, my boss Mike pulled me aside. "Caleb, what the hell is going on? Your wife called here 6 times last week saying you were in rehab, then some lawyer called saying you were at a wedding, and now your wife is calling again saying you've been arrested." "I haven't been arrested, Mike. I was at my brother's wedding in Barbados, just like I told you I would be. My wife and I are having some marital problems, and she's not handling it well." "Some marital problems?" "She told Jennifer in HR that you were embezzling money to pay for prostitutes." My stomach dropped. "She said what?" "Yeah. Jennifer was pretty concerned. We're going to need to have a formal meeting about this." "Mike, I've never embezzled anything. You have access to all my accounts, all my expense reports. You know I'm clean." "I know that, and you know that, but when someone's wife calls making accusations like that, we have to take it seriously." This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. Noelle wasn't content to destroy our marriage. She was going after my career, my reputation, everything I'd built. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Documentation. Proof that these are false accusations made by an estranged spouse, and probably a lawyer's letter explaining the situation. I can get you both." "Good. Because, Caleb, I like you, and I don't want to lose you. But if this keeps up, it's going to become a problem for the whole company." I spent the morning documenting every financial transaction I'd made in the past year, every expense report, every client payment. It was tedious work, but necessary. When Noelle's lies finally caught up with her, I wanted to have proof of the truth. At lunch, I drove to Noelle's flower shop. I needed to see her, to try one more time to make her understand what she was doing to both of us. The shop was busy, which was good. She'd be less likely to cause a scene with customers around. I waited until she was alone at the counter before approaching. "Caleb." Sierra, her assistant, spotted me first. I didn't expect to see you here. I need to talk to Noelle. Sierra glanced toward the back room where Noelle was arranging flowers. I don't think that's a good idea. She's been really upset. I know. That's why I'm here. Noelle emerged from the back room carrying a vase of lilies. When she saw me, her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, hope, anger, and finally a kind of cold calculation. Well, look who decided to show up at my work, she said loudly enough for the customers to hear. Noelle, we need to talk. About what? About how you abandoned me for your Caribbean whore? About how you're trying to steal my house? About how you had me arrested? The customers were staring now. An elderly woman with a small dog looked particularly scandalized. You weren't arrested, Noelle, and I'm not trying to steal anything. Then why are you here? Come to gloat? I'm here because you called my work and told them I was embezzling money. I never said that. You told HR I was stealing money to pay for prostitutes. Noelle's cheeks flushed, but she lifted her chin defiantly. Maybe I did. Maybe someone needs to know what kind of man you really are. What kind of man am I, Noelle? The kind who abandons his wife, the kind who cheats, the kind who lies and steals and thinks he can just walk away from his responsibilities. I looked around at the customers, all of whom were now openly staring at our domestic drama. This was what Noelle wanted, a public confrontation where she could play the victim and I'd look like the villain no matter what I said. I've never cheated on you, I said quietly. I've never stolen anything. I went to my brother's wedding, and when I came back, you'd destroyed my property and changed the locks on our house. Our house? It's my house now. Actually, it's not. It's still our house, legally, which is why changing the locks was illegal. Everything's illegal with you, isn't it? Can't a woman protect herself in her own home? Protect yourself from what? From you. From your lies and your cheating and your… Noelle. I held up my hand. Stop. Just stop. Something in my tone must have gotten through to her, because she went quiet. This has to end, I said. The lies, the accusations, the attempts to destroy my career, it has to stop. Or what? Or I'll make sure it stops. The words came out harder than I'd intended, and I saw something flicker in Noelle's eyes. Fear, maybe. Or recognition that she'd pushed too far. Are you threatening me? She asked, but her voice was smaller now. I'm promising you. Stop trying to destroy my life, or I'll stop you. I turned and walked out of the shop, leaving her standing there with her lilies and her audience. I felt like I'd just declared war, but maybe that's what this had always been. A war I'd been too naive to recognize. My phone rang as I got back to my car. Nate. Where are you? He asked. Just left Noelle's shop. Why? Because she's been posting about you on Facebook again. Real nasty stuff. What now? She's saying you came to her work and threatened her, says she's afraid for her safety. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Nate. There were 6 customers in that shop. They all heard what I said. Doesn't matter. She's got people believing her version. What people? Check your Facebook. You're not going to like it. He was right. Noelle had posted, My estranged husband just came to my workplace and threatened me in front of customers. I'm scared and don't know what to do. He's becoming increasingly unstable and I fear for my safety. Please, keep me in your thoughts. Domestic violence. Scared? Help me. The post already had dozens of comments and shares. People I'd known for years were calling me an abuser, a psychopath, a danger to women. Friends were taking sides, and most of them were taking Noelle's. This is insane, I said to Nate. She's completely rewriting history. Yeah, well, she's good at it, and people want to believe her. Why? Because she's playing the victim, and you're playing the villain. Guess which role gets more sympathy? I scrolled through the comments, watching my reputation disintegrate in real time. People who'd known me since high school were sharing stories about how they'd always suspected I was controlling or abusive. Others were offering to help Noelle, to protect her, to make sure she was safe from her dangerous husband. I need to respond to this, I said. No, you don't. Anything you say will just make it worse. So I just let her destroy me? You let your lawyer handle it. Fighting back on social media is like wrestling with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. He was right, but it was hard to watch my life burn down in the comments section of Facebook. These were people I'd grown up with, worked with, considered friends, and they were all turning against me based on Noelle's lies. There's something else, Nate said. What now? Viv and Sierra are planning something. I overheard them at the bar last night. Something about making sure he gets what he deserves. What kind of something? I don't know. But they were drunk and angry and talking about justice. It didn't sound good. Great. So now I had to worry about Noelle's friends taking matters into their own hands. Nate, I think I need to disappear for a while. Let things cool down. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere Noelle can't find me. Somewhere her friends can't find me. You can't run from this, Caleb. It'll just make you look guilty. I already look guilty. At least if I'm gone, I can't be accused of threatening anyone else. But even as I said it, I knew running wasn't the answer. Noelle had already painted me as the villain in her story. Disappearing would just confirm everything she'd said about me. I needed a different strategy. Something Noelle wouldn't expect. Something that would expose her lies and force people to see the truth. I needed to fight back. But first, I needed to know exactly what I was fighting against. Nate, I said, I need you to do me a favor. Name it. I need you to find out what Viv and Sierra are planning, and I need you to document everything Noelle does for the next few days. Photos, videos, witnesses, everything. You building a case? I'm building a defense, because something tells me I'm going to need it. 3 days later, I found out exactly what Viv and Sierra had been planning. I was staying at a motel outside town trying to lay low while Maddie worked on the divorce papers when Nate called with news that made my blood run cold. They're planning to frame you, he said without preamble. Frame me for what? Assault. Maybe worse. Viv's been asking around about how to make bruises look realistic for her Instagram photos. Sierra's been researching domestic violence laws. I sat down hard on the motel bed. You're sure? I'm sure. They think if they can get you arrested for domestic violence, Noelle will get everything in the divorce. That's insane. Yeah, well, we're dealing with insane people. How do you know all this? Sierra's been bragging about it at the bar. She's too stupid to keep her mouth shut and too drunk to realize people are listening. I thought about the Facebook posts, the lies to my employer, the systematic destruction of my reputation. This was the logical next step for someone who'd already shown she was willing to commit federal crimes to get what she wanted. When? I asked. Soon. Maybe tonight. Viv posted something about justice coming for those who deserve it. I need to get ahead of this. How? I don't know yet, but I'm not going down for something I didn't do. I hung up and called Maddie. They're planning to frame me for assault, I told her. Jesus Christ, Caleb. Are you sure? Nate's sure, and that's good enough for me. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to stay exactly where you are, and you're going to make sure you have witnesses for every minute of the next few days. I'm going to call the police and give them a heads up about what's coming. Will they believe us? They'll believe us when Noelle shows up with convenient bruises and a story that doesn't match the evidence. But I wasn't content to sit in a motel room and wait for Noelle to destroy what was left of my life. I'd been reactive for too long, always responding to her latest crisis instead of getting ahead of it. It was time to take control. I drove to the house. My house. The one I'd paid for, worked on, made into a home before Noelle turned it into a shrine to her paranoia. Her car was in the driveway, along with Viv's red Honda and Sierra's beat-up Subaru. Perfect. All the conspirators in one place. I parked across the street and called Nate. "Where are you?" he asked. "Outside the house. They're all here." "Caleb, don't do anything stupid." "I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to do something smart." "What's the difference?" "Stupid would be confronting them. Smart is recording them." I pulled out my phone and started the video recorder. Then I walked up to my own front door and knocked. Sierra answered, and her face went white when she saw me. "Caleb! What are you doing here?" "I live here," I said calmly. "Can I come in?" "Noelle's not feeling well. Maybe you should come back later." "I'll just be a minute." I pushed past her into the living room, where I found Noelle sitting on the couch with Viv. They were surrounded by makeup, looking like they were getting ready for a photo shoot. Well, I said, still recording. "What's all this?" Noelle jumped up, knocking over a compact of what looked like bruise-colored makeup. "Caleb, you can't just barge in here. It's my house too, remember? What's with the makeup tutorial?" "We're just experimenting with looks," Viv said, but she couldn't meet my eyes. "Interesting look," I said, zooming in on the spilled makeup. "Very realistic bruising effect. Planning a Halloween party?" "Get out," Noelle said. "Get out right now." "Actually, I think I'll stay. This seems like something I should document." That's when Sierra made her mistake. She lunged for my phone, trying to grab it out of my hands. "Delete that!" she screamed. "You can't record us without permission." "Actually, I can. It's my house, and Massachusetts is a one-party consent state." The three women looked at each other, and I could see them realizing that their plan had just fallen apart. "This isn't what it looks like," Noelle said. "Really? Because it looks like you three were planning to fake domestic violence to frame me for assault." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I picked up one of the makeup compacts. "This is stage makeup designed to simulate bruising. You have tutorial videos pulled up on your phone about how to make injuries look realistic. And according to my friend at the bar, you've been asking around about domestic violence laws." Viv started crying. "It was her idea," she said, pointing at Noelle. "She said you deserved it for what you did to her." "Shut up, Viv!" Noelle snapped. "No, I won't shut up. This is crazy, Noelle. We could go to jail for this." "What exactly was the plan?" I asked, still recording. "We weren't going to do anything," Sierra said quickly. "The makeup suggests otherwise." "It was just makeup," Noelle said. "We weren't actually going to—" "Going to what? File false charges, perjure yourselves in court, destroy my life based on lies?" The room went quiet, except for Viv's sniffling. "You know what the funny thing is?" I said. "I actually felt sorry for you, Noelle. I thought you were having some kind of breakdown, that you needed help. But this is just evil." "You abandoned me," she said, but her voice was small now. "I went to my brother's wedding. You knew where I was going, when I'd be back, and why I was going. That's not abandonment. That's having a life outside of managing your emotions. I loved you. No, you didn't. You loved controlling me. You loved having someone to blame for your problems, someone to manipulate when things didn't go your way. That's not love, Noelle. That's abuse." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I never hit you," she said. "Physical violence isn't the only kind of abuse. Destroying my property, isolating me from my family, lying about me to my employer, trying to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. That's all abuse." I looked around at the three of them, Noelle with her fake victim act, Sierra with her guilty conscience, Viv with her tears and excuses. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to clean up this mess. You're going to delete every false post you've made about me. You're going to call my employer and tell them you lied. And you're going to stay the hell away from me while my lawyer handles the divorce." "And if we don't?" Noelle asked. I held up my phone. "Then this video goes to the police, along with all the evidence of your harassment, your lies, and your conspiracy to file false charges. How do you think that will play out in divorce court?" The fight went out of her completely. She sank back onto the couch, looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen her. "I just wanted you to love me," she whispered. "I did love you," I said. "But you can't love someone who's trying to destroy you." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and Noelle, pack your things. This is my house, and I want you out by tomorrow." "You can't kick me out." "Actually, I can. Check the deed. My name is the only one on it." Her face went white. "That's impossible. We bought it together." "We looked at it together. I bought it. The down payment came from my account, the mortgage is in my name, and the deed lists me as the sole owner. You never actually signed anything." But I live here." "You lived here, past tense. You have 24 hours. I walked out of the house, my house, and got in my car. Behind me, I could hear Noelle screaming, but I didn't look back. My phone was buzzing with notifications. Apparently, Noelle had started deleting her Facebook posts. Good. It was a start. I drove to Nate's bar, where he was waiting with a beer and a grin. "How'd it go?" he asked. "Better than expected." I showed him the video. He watched it twice, shaking his head. "Jesus, Caleb, they were really going to do it." "Yeah, but they're not anymore. So what now? Now I get my life back." The next morning, I moved back into my house. Noelle had left sometime during the night, taking only her clothes and personal items. She'd left the fake makeup on the kitchen counter with a note. "I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." Too little, too late. Maddie called that afternoon. "The divorce papers are ready," she said, "and I have some good news." I could use some good news. Noelle's lawyer called. She wants to settle out of court. "What's she offering?" "Nothing. She's not asking for anything. Not the house, not alimony, not even half the assets. She just wants it to be over." I sat down in my living room, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. "How long?" I asked. "If she signs everything, we could be done in 30 days. "Do it." 3 weeks later, I was officially divorced. Noelle had moved back in with her parents in another state. Sierra had quit the flower shop and left town. Viv had deleted all her social media accounts after someone posted screenshots of her planning messages. The town gossip mill moved on to other scandals. My reputation slowly recovered as people realized they'd been manipulated by a master manipulator. I kept the house, the car, after getting it repainted, and most importantly, my freedom. 6 months later, I was sitting on my back porch, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, when my phone rang. It was Danny. "How's the divorced life treating you?" he asked. "Can't complain." "Good, because Sarah and I are planning an anniversary trip to Italy next year, and we want you to come. Will I need a passport?" "Very funny. I'll think about it." "Think hard. You've got some living to catch up on." He was right. I'd spent 3 years walking on eggshells, managing someone else's emotions, apologizing for crimes I didn't commit and problems I didn't create. I'd forgotten what it felt like to just be myself. I looked around at my house, my yard, my life, all mine again, all under my control. It felt good. It felt like freedom. And for the first time in years, I was excited to see what came next.